Texas lawmakers just passed an $8.5 billion boost to school funding, ranging from pay bumps for teachers and support staff to changes in special ed and school safety. Do you think that this is a sufficient investment, and are the parameters on how this is to be used the right ones?
Right. It's tricky. $8.5 billion sounds like a major investment. But in any new funding for public schools are welcome. Like we all want that. I think it's interesting that they don't explain kind of where that money is going to go and how it compares to investments across the country. So if you think about $8.5 billion over the course of a couple of years, it basically breaks down to $1,700 per student over a couple of years. And even with that, Texas would still fall $4,000 below the national average in cost per student expenditures, which would rank us 47th still in the nation. So I think conservatives that talk about this as something like, look at us, we're investing $8.5 billion, they don't explain that it doesn't really catch us up to consistent insufficient funding for public schools.
I think it's tricky nowadays where we're throwing around these numbers.
Yep.
And it's just so hard to get perspective on whether or not this is a substantial investment
Right.
or if it's not, right?
And it isn't. And I think that if you listen to the debates on the floor and you listen to some of the Democrats push back on this, it's for that reason. It's like we are basically trying to catch up on chronic disinvestment in public education.
And, we're going to talk more about vouchers here in a moment, but was this done in earnest, or was this done as a sort of, hey, we're going to pass school vouchers, so here's a little bit of investment in public schools? I don't want to be, have the kind of pessimistic, output and thought about that, but is that the case?
It is. It's the latter.
Okay.
It's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound when it comes to public education. And so they really wanted that $1 billion for the educational savings accounts and for vouchers. And so then they say, well, we're going to go ahead and invest all of this money, not telling the public that we are so far behind that this is just a dent and what we need to be doing to invest in our public system. So yeah, it was misleading. And it's not coming from a place of true investment in our public system in a way that's coming from an earnest place at all. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I read that, I believe with the school vouchers that they're limited to spending maybe $1 billion the first couple of years.
Right.
But then that cap disappears, and some of the budget offices have predicted that by 2030, we could be spending $5 billion a year on the school voucher program, which, if that is the case, then that puts this in perspective. Okay, $5 billion a year on school vouchers, but we've got a one-time, who knows until the next investment of
Right.
8.5, right?
That's correct. I mean, you've done your homework, so you can tell that the math doesn't math, and that, we've seen this in other states where vouchers were implemented, like in Arizona, where initial estimates for 68 million, it blew up to 668 million over the course of a couple of years. And so, yeah, estimates now say that 5 to 7 billion over a few years. We don't really know because you have to wait and see how they play out. But in Arizona, it's $300,000 per school per year. That's every dollar that goes to librarians, transportation, special education support. So the breakdown there, they throw a big number, but they don't really give you any context to what that could look like over time. And it's all taxpayer dollars.
Right. And, in Texas, that taxpayer dollar often comes from property taxes, right? Like a big way that we fund schools in Texas is through property taxes. Right. And so at the same time, they're doing things like increasing the homestead exemption, which is supposed to provide property tax relief. But at the same time, we're creating a shortfall for funding public schools, which when they come to balance things in the end is going to mean for an increase in property tax rates, right?
That's right. That's right. And I think people can, they're ideating about how they can pass these sorts of bills without having to get into the conversations around property tax and what that means. And I think if more people were aware of that implication, that there would be more people testifying, that there would be more of an uproar. But they passed this voucher scheme has been denied for decades. Right. So this is all political. This is all driven by billionaire interests, because all of this is seen as a business. Right. And I think where the public and the taxpayer kind of, get left behind is not knowing how this is going to impact their own taxes, what they're investing in the public system.
Right.